So yesterday, if you remember, we were discussing about the election expenditure, right? So, and we also discussed whether what is the maximum expenditure limit for a Lok Sabha constituency for one candidate, right? And what is 95 lakh, right? And for a assembly constituency, it is 40 lakh per candidate. Now that's the expenditure that has to be incurred by, or that can be incurred by a candidate on the campaign from the date of from the date of publication of final list of contesting candidates, okay, not before that, and till the announcement of the result, right? Which means that this is a money which is basically spent either by the candidate. When if the candidate has money, they spend. If the candidates don't have money, then most of the political parties, they give money to the candidates for their campaign, okay. And Sakshi was yesterday saying that this amount of expenditure is far more than what is the maximum limit of expenditure. And she's absolutely correct. And this is also a general observation that the money rich candidates, rich independent candidates, or the candidates of uh, national level main political parties are concerned, they spend far more than this expenditure limit. And we've also seen how does it work, because there is an expenditure observer and expenditure records have to be maintained, but there are loopholes, there are gaps, lot of expenditure which is done by the candidates or various workers of the party in favor of a particular candidate that goes unaccounted, right? For example, I'm a candidate, so I conduct say 5 public gatherings, meetings in a day during the campaign, right? So I say, okay, these 5 are arranged, this is the money spent, but what about the campaign that is carried out on my behalf by hundreds of other party workers, right? They are moving. Am I the only one contesting, campaigning for myself? If that was the case, then people sitting inside the jail would not win, right? Which means that there are many, many more people who are campaigning for me. And where are they spending? Are they spending from their own pockets? The party workers, पार्टियों के कर्मठ कार्यकर्ता जिसको कहते हैं, वो कहाँ से खर्च कर रहे हैं? वो भी तो दौड़ रहे हैं हर पोलिंग बूथ पर भी कार्यकर्ता होते हैं. They are also spending money, they are meeting people, they are giving people things. Where does that money come from? So party workers don't really spend out of their pockets. It comes from the party, political party, right? And where would the political party get it from? So the political parties
Candidate.
traditionally,
The candidate.
no, the candidates do give money, but all candidates will not be able to give money, right? And not the amount of money that is required for such a large scale campaign. इतना पैसा इंडिविजुअल कैंडिडेट्स के पास बहुत कम लोगों के पास होता है. Most of the people will not have such amount of money, right? Whatever they have, they will spend, but it would still require more money, and that money then comes from various
Companies.
donations to the political parties. Donations, right? So political parties basically receive a lot of donation traditionally. तो डोनेशन जो होता है, जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को मिलता है, वो कोई भी दे सकता है. एनीबडी कैन गिव डोनेशन, राइट? ट्रेडिशनली पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैव बीन रिसीविंग डोनेशंस, एंड इलेक्शन कमीशन हैज its own rules which say that if a political party is a registered political party, all the political parties have to register themselves. A political party has to register itself, right? Register with ECI, no? As per section 29 of the Representation of People Act, the political parties have to register themselves. There are more than a couple of thousand registered political parties. However, as per the rules of the ECI, only such political parties can receive donations and contributions. Donations, right? And contributions can be received by political parties which are registered with the ECI under Section 29. Plus, they have to have at least 1% poll votes in where last general elections to Lok Sabha or state legislative assembly. Okay. Now, traditionally, the political parties used to receive donations from people, individuals, and also from companies, right, or corporate bodies. But there were certain restrictions on those. As per, even as per, for example, people who individuals who donate, if any amount of money is paid by an individual to a political party, that money had to be paid to the political party in terms of either cash or in can be could be transferred to their account previously. But if the donation from an individual or anybody was more than rupees 20,000, okay, if it was more than 20,000, more than this, then the political parties had to keep a record of all such donations which they received from individuals or corporate bodies or companies for the amount more than 20,000, along with their names of the people who gave donation, and they had also to maintain record, and this had to be also submitted to the election commission. So there was a sort of some kind of transparency when it came to donations, and these were basically individual donations. ओके, तो आप भी डोनेट कर सकते हैं. आपको लगता है कि भाई ये पॉलिटिकल पार्टी बहुत अच्छा काम करती है या अच्छा काम करेगी, तो मैं इसको फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट करता हूं, तो आप 1,000-2,000 रुपए डोनेट कर सकते हैं. ऐसा करते भी. बट व्हेन इट केम टू द डोनेशंस बाय द कॉर्पोरेट्स, जो कॉर्पोरेट्स या कंपनीज हैं, वो डोनेट करेगी तो इस तरह के अमाउंट्स तो नहीं करेगी. They might actually donate and contribute larger amounts. Of course, they can contribute these amounts also, smaller ones, but generally they would contribute and donate larger amounts. अब वो larger amounts कितने हो सकते हैं? तो उसकी कोई लिमिट तो
Anything.
होनी चाहिए. तो उसके
Unlimited.
लिए कंपनीज एक्ट जो है, कंपनी टैक्स ऑफ 2013, Companies Act is very old, 1959 का act है, but it was amended in 2013 massively, and generally we call it 2013 Companies Act. As per this act, because this relates to companies, तो companies कितना donate कर सकती हैं, who will decide that? The Companies Act has a provision for that, and that provision was that any company can contribute to any political party which is eligible. This definition, these two, okay. Eligibility of a political party to receive donation, just remember this. It has to be registered with ECI, plus it has to have polled at least 1% of the polled votes. What is polled votes? What is the vote and polled votes? You know that?
Poll votes counted.
The total votes which have been counted and found valid are the poll votes. Now, all the votes which are counted are valid votes because they are EVMs, right? Earlier, there used to be a large number of invalid votes. तो 10,000 वोट यदि किसी इलेक्शन में पड़ते थे तो 1-2 हजार इनवैलिड हो सकते थे. So that's why polled votes was a very important thing. Poll votes are those votes which have been polled, given and counted. ईवीएम में वो स्कोप नहीं है, बट स्टिल बैलेट पेपर अभी भी होता है, राइट? सर्विस वोटर्स का या फिर इलेक्शन ड्यूटी पे जो वोटर्स होते हैं उनका बैलेट पेपर होता है, राइट? या फिर जो सिटीजन्स आउटसाइड इंडिया है वो भी बैलेट पेपर से वोट कर सकते हैं, तो उनके बैलेट पेपर में अभी भी इनवैलिड होते हैं फॉर वेरियस रीजन, बट दैट नंबर इज वेरी स्मॉल, in few thousand, right? In a Lok Sabha constituency where 7-8 lakh people vote, this number is only in 20-30,000, not more than that. तो उसमें बहुत कम होता है. So that is the norm. Now the Companies Act has a provision that a company cannot contribute to any political party not more than 7.5% of their profit, average profit of last 3 fiscal years. This is the provision. This actually was the provision as per the Companies Act. तो Companies Act ने define कर दिया कि भी companies को contribute करना है, so you can contribute to political parties, but that total contribution, the contribution that totally you give to all the political parties, आपने इसको कुछ दिया, इसको कुछ दिया, इसको कुछ दिया, जो भी मिला के या किसी एक को ही दे दिया सब कुछ, whatever is that cannot be more than 7.5% of your average profit of last 3 years. ठीक है? तो पिछले सालों 3 सालों का एवरेज मान लीजिए उनका प्रॉफिट है 1 करोड़ आता है, तो वो 7.5 लाख ही दे सकते हैं, राइट? एवरेज प्रॉफिट. And this was the norm. This was what was happening. Now what happens? Let us just understand the sequence. Then we come in 2017, and in the 2017 budget, the government comes up with 2 important changes. What do? They make an amendment. The first amendment they do is where does the amendment come? The amendment comes in the finance bill, Finance Act of 2017. What do? Finance Act means what? You know that, right? The finance bill is, when it's passed during the budget, finance bill is passed and that becomes a Finance Act. That is also called a Finance Act. So Finance Act, every year it comes. In Finance Act, they made a provision that this limit of 2000 rupees 2000, so there were another limit that the individual member, yeah, this 20,000 had to be noted. Below 20,000 you could take, and you did not have to report the identity of the donor, but you could not receive more than 2,000 rupees in cash. Okay, so the rupees is received in cash had to be less than 2,000. If you're an individual, आप कैश में 2,000 से ज्यादा डोनेशन नहीं दे सकते. ठीक है? तो पहला ये शर्त. दूसरा, यदि आप 2,000 से ज्यादा डोनेशन देते हैं तो चेक में ही होगा या अकाउंट में सीधा ट्रांसफर करना पड़ेगा, कैश नहीं दे सकते. और वो जैसे ही 20,000 से ज्यादा होता है, पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को रिकॉर्ड भी रखना पड़ेगा और बताना भी पड़ेगा कि किसने दिया है वो पैसे, राइट? So that there is a sense of transparency. What did they do in 2000? They changed this for political parties. Now this is for all. This is for all. Is this for only political parties? No. It is for all organizations. If you are an NGO, for example, and if I want to donate to your NGO, I cannot donate more than 2,000 rupees in cash, because that's a general provision as per the Companies Act, right? As per the finance rules. Now, which meant that they had to relax this, so they first changed this. So one could now pay more than 20,000. Up to 20,000 they could pay in cash, right? So cash component was increased. दैट वाज स्टिल फाइन कि कैश में दे रहे हैं या किसमें इसमें इंक्रीज किया, and that too only for political parties. Why should one make such a change for political parties? That was made. Two, it was not necessary to disclose the identity of the not necessary to disclose the identity of the donor. Even beyond 20,000, right? And that was exemption given for the political parties only. If you are donating to an NGO, you still have to disclose it. But if you are donating to a political party, you need not. So they did it in 2017. They made these two changes in finance bill and finance act. And in 2018, the government came up with a new scheme, and that was called Electoral Bond scheme. So this electoral bond scheme it did not come suddenly. There were certain changes being made, in the way donations and contributions were received by the political parties. Okay? In these electoral bond scheme, the government came up with certain norms. The objective of the electoral bond scheme was to bring about transparency in the donations that are given by individuals and corporations to the political parties. One was the transparency. The other was reduce cash component, right? To reduce cash, because cash leads to malpractices. So reduce cash. So what was the objective? The stated objective. The objectives of the scheme. What were the main objectives? Hmm? One, to bring about transparency, right? Transparency in donations given by individuals and companies to the corporates, to the political parties. The other was reduce cash transactions that can lead to malpractices. Okay, so these were the two basic objectives that were supposed to be achieved, to reduce misuse of cash in elections. It also said that because the donations are given in cash, the cash is more prone to misuse during the elections. आप लोगों के अकाउंट में पैसा ट्रांसफर करके तो नहीं दोगे इसको वोट डालने के लिए, right? So this was one of the objectives of this electoral bond scheme. What are the provision? What is the provision of the scheme? Provision was simple. The provision was very important. Provision of the scheme was first that individuals and corporations can donate to the political parties, right? And such donations